With the introduction of trait fruits and everyone getting 100 free ones with the start of the new game mode, I wanted to briefly cover how stat distribution works in Fire Emblem Heroes. When or if you decide to spend those trait fruits on changing a unit's acid / flaw or boon / bane, there may be some funky stat changes you may not have expected. Today I want to walk through the stat distribution method to help anyone who doesn't understand why certain changes may happen, like why does my Tethys lose 1 res when I change to a plus attack boon. There is indeed a reason, and it's not super complicated once you know the basics. We will be talking about merges and Dragonflowers because both are related in a way. So first, let's cover what stats increase when you apply a merge to a unit. The major rule of stat distribution is that it's based on the level 1 base stats for a unit. You can see here a normal Tethys has 16 HP, 5 attack, 9 speed, 4 defense, and 6 resistance. When you add a merge to a unit, every merge is going to grant 2 stat points to the 2 highest level 1 base stats. For Tethys, her first highest base stat is HP, which is basically every unit's highest base stat. Her second highest stat is speed at 9, so with a +1 merge, Tethys gets +1 HP and +1 speed. For every additional merge, you continue the pattern of adding 2 stats into the next 2 highest base stats. So for merge number 2, you look and see that res is the 3rd highest stat and attack is the 4th highest stat. For merge number 3, the 5th highest base stat is defense, which is the last one. After that, we loop back through the pattern from highest to lowest level 1 base stats, so the 6th extra stat point will now go into HP. At +10 merges, a unit will have +4 to all stats, and keep in mind that at +10 merges, none of this stat distribution stuff matters, it always ends up at +4 to all stats. Now what happens if 2 level 1 base stats tie for the next highest? Ties are broken by going in a set order of HP, attack, speed, defense, and res. Pretty simple, right? So Brave Dimitri here has his HP as his first highest stat, but for the second highest stat, his attack and defense are tied at 10. Following the order, Dimitri's first merge is going to go into HP and attack. On the second merge, you just continue where you left off, so the next 2 stats go into defense and speed. Now let's talk about Neutral Natures and Dragonflowers. For the Neutral Nature boost and Dragonflowers, they actually work in the same fashion as merges for stat distribution. The Neutral Nature bonus adds 3 stat points into the 3 highest level 1 base stats instead of the traditional +3 into the 1 bane stat to cancel it out. This was mainly relevant for our reward units because they are always given with a Neutral Nature. As an example, for Tethys at Neutral Nature, she's going to get 3 extra stat points into HP, speed, and res. Don't forget to add the actual +1 merge stat boost, so if you remember from before, she gets another 1 HP and speed. For Dragonflowers, they just grant +1 stat for every Dragonflower used, and they follow the same level 1 base stat distribution we've been using throughout the video. So for the first Dragonflower, Tethys gets +1 HP. For Dragonflower number 2, that goes into speed, and for Dragonflower number 3, that goes into her res stat. Dragonflowers don't just grant stats randomly, there is a method to the madness. Like merges though, at max Dragonflowers, none of this matters. If you can take 5 Dragonflowers, that's +1 to every stat, 10 Dragonflowers is +2 to every stat, and the newly added 15 Dragonflowers is +3 to all stats. Now let's talk about trait fruits changing a unit's boons and banes. It is very important to understand that boons / banes or acid / flaws do affect the level 1 base stats that you use for stat distribution. Let's say I now have a plus attack and minus res Tethys. When you have a boon, you add +1 to the level 1 base stat, and for a bane, you -1 from the level 1 base stat. So a plus attack minus res Tethys ends up with 6 attack instead of 5, and 5 res instead of 6. Because of these changes, our stat distribution order is altered, so for the Dragonflower example, the first 2 Dragonflowers still go into HP and speed since those were our first and second highest stats. However, the 3rd highest stat is now her attack instead of her resistance, so Dragonflower number 3 is added to attack instead. This is why changing boons and banes can sometimes add extra stat points. Luckily, the trait fruit menu does showcase these changes. I'm just explaining why these changes are happening. Some important takeaways from all of this: even though the first merge gets rid of the bane stat penalty now, banes are still used for stat distribution. With that said though, at +10 merges and max Dragonflowers, stat distribution order does not really matter anymore. It determines which stats get increased at certain breakpoints, but for your fully invested units, they will always have the same full stat boost. If you don't have a unit at max merges and Dragonflowers, using a trait fruit to change their boons and banes may affect stat distributions, which can have side effects, so please be aware of what you choose. Obviously, most people are looking to choose an appropriate boon or super boon, but don't just choose any random bane stat. For example, if you get stuck at +9 merges for a unit that really wants extra speed, you may not get that last point of speed until the 10th merge. These same can be applied to Dragonflower usage if you're trying to save them. If you aren't going to go for max Dragonflowers on every unit because they are expensive, then you may only need 3 to get the extra speed point, and stat distribution order can affect this. You don't have to worry too much about this stuff, but it's nice to understand what is happening behind the scenes. There will probably be some funky cases where the merge levels and Dragonflowers used cause big shifts in stat points when you change traits, but those should hopefully not be too detrimental. That's all I got for this video. Do remember to do your weekly game modes because trait fruits are now earnable. You can get them from forging bonds, including the re-one going on right now, as well as resonant battles, arena, and runner strike. The big 100 free trait fruits come from participating in the new game mode, Frontline Phalanx, which should be out tomorrow. Let me know who you're going to be spending those first 100 trait fruits on, and it's going to be a bit of time before players can accumulate another batch of 100. Thanks for watching, I'll see you guys next time.